Emily Carter thought she understood the rules of her world. Keep your head down, protect the guest's privacy, never ask questions. For 3 years at Manhattan's most exclusive boutique hotel, she'd perfected the art of invisible service, checking in celebrities under fake names, pretending not to notice suspicious meetings, becoming a ghost in her own life. But when a billionaire tech mogul started using her hotel as a hideaway every Friday night, Emily's carefully maintained neutrality began to crack. She didn't know that one moment of human curiosity would unravel a conspiracy that would force her to choose between her integrity and her survival.
Quick pause. Before we continue, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? If you're enjoying these stories, make sure to hit subscribe, because tomorrow's episode is absolutely mind-blowing.
The Meridian Hotel wasn't the largest luxury establishment in Manhattan, but it was certainly the most discreet. Nestled between Fifth Avenue boutiques and hidden behind an unmarked brass door, it catered to a specific clientele, people who valued privacy more than prestige, silence more than status. Emily Carter had worked the front desk for 3 years, long enough to recognize the patterns that defined her guests' secret lives. She'd learned to read the subtle signals. The married executive who checked in every Tuesday at 2 p.m., always requesting the room farthest from the elevator. The actress who wore oversized sunglasses indoors and signed the register with increasingly creative pseudonyms. The venture capitalist who paid cash and never stayed past midnight. Emily had become fluent in the language of discretion, her face a practiced mask of professional detachment. The evening shift on a Friday in October started like any other. The lobby's warm lighting cast amber shadows across marble floors, and the scent of imported orchids mixed with the faint aroma of leather from the sitting area. Emily stood behind her counter, reviewing reservations on her screen, when the brass door opened with its characteristic whisper. He walked in alone, as he always did. Tall, maybe 6'2", with dark hair starting to silver at the temples and eyes that seemed perpetually tired despite his expensive suit. He approached the desk with a slight smile, not the forced charm of someone trying to impress, but something that seemed genuinely warm. "Good evening, Emily," he said, and that was the first unusual thing. Most guests at the Meridian pretended not to learn their names. Anonymity was a two-way street. "Good evening, Mr. Davidson," she replied, using the name he'd checked in under 12 weeks ago during his first visit. "The usual suite?" "Please." He slid a black credit card across the marble counter. No luggage, as always. No briefcase, no overnight bag, nothing that suggested he planned to stay. In 3 months of Friday night visits, Emily had noticed everything about Mr. Davidson that didn't quite fit the profile of our typical guests. He was polite where others were curt. He made eye contact where others looked through her. He said thank you like he meant it. And most puzzling of all, he never seemed to meet anyone. The room service reports showed 0 orders. Housekeeping noted that his suite remained pristine, barely used. He would arrive at 8 p.m. and leave by midnight. 4 hours that left no trace except an electronic key card returned to her desk and a generous tip charged to his room. Emily processed his check-in with practiced efficiency, but her mind wandered to questions she knew she shouldn't ask. What did he do for 4 hours in a luxury suite? Why pay $800 for a room he barely touched? And why does someone who could clearly afford permanent Manhattan real estate need to rent temporary privacy? "Here's your key, Mr. Davidson. Suite 412, as requested." "Thank you, Emily. Have a good evening." He took the key card and headed toward the elevator, his footsteps absorbed by the plush carpet. Emily watched him go, then immediately felt guilty for watching. Curiosity was a professional liability in her line of work. The rest of her shift passed in routine tasks. She checked in a couple celebrating an anniversary, fielded a complaint about room temperature from the guest in 307, and ordered fresh flowers for the lobby arrangement that was beginning to wilt. At 11:47 p.m., Mr. Davidson returned to the desk, placed his keycard on the counter with a quiet "thank you," and disappeared into the Manhattan night. Emily picked up the keycard, running her thumb over its smooth surface. Suite 412. 4 hours. No explanation. She logged the checkout in her system and filed the keycard in its proper slot, pushing away the questions that had no business occupying her thoughts. But patterns, once noticed, become impossible to ignore. Emily had no idea that upstairs, in Suite 412, Mr. Davidson had left something behind. Something that would shatter her understanding of everything. And in less than 24 hours, a woman in a $1,000 dress would walk through that brass door, carrying accusations that would put Emily at the center of a scandal she never asked to join.
Saturday morning arrived with unseasonable warmth, the kind of October day that made New Yorkers forget winter was coming. Emily's shift started at 3 p.m., giving her morning hours to herself, time she usually spent at the corner cafe, reading and pretending her life held more possibility than it actually did. She dropped out of Columbia's graduate program in social work 2 years ago, when her mother's medical bills became unmanageable. The Meridian job was supposed to be temporary, just until she got back on her feet. But temporary had a way of becoming permanent when you were too tired to fight it. At 28, Emily had mastered the art of deferred dreams. The afternoon shift began quietly. Saturday guests tended to check in later, after museum visits or shopping expeditions. Emily was updating the weekend reservation spreadsheet when the brass door opened with more force than usual. The woman who entered commanded immediate attention. She wore a cream-colored dress that probably cost more than Emily's monthly rent, and her highlighted hair was styled in the kind of effortless waves that required a very expensive stylist. Diamond stubs caught the lobby's amber light, and her heels clicked against marble with the confidence of someone accustomed to being heard. But it was her face that made Emily's professional smile falter. The woman's eyes were red-rimmed, her makeup slightly smudged as if she'd been crying. Her hand shook as she approached the desk, gripping a designer handbag like it was the only thing keeping her upright. "I need to know if Alexander Morrison is staying here," the woman said without preamble. Her voice carried the slight rasp of suppressed emotion. "Please, it's urgent." Emily's training kicked in automatically. "I'm sorry, ma'am, but I can't disclose information about our guests. Hotel policy." "You don't understand." The woman leaned closer, and Emily caught the scent of expensive perfume mixed with desperation. "My name is Victoria Walsh. Alexander Morrison is my fiancé. We've been engaged for 2 years. I have reason to believe he's been using this hotel to meet someone else." Emily felt her stomach tighten. Alexander Morrison? The name triggered immediate recognition. She'd seen it in Forbes, in TechCrunch, in the business section of the Times. Technologies, valued at $3.2 billion. A face that appeared at charity galas and tech conferences, and apparently the real name of the man she knew as Mr. Davidson. "I'm so sorry for what you're going through, but I truly cannot help you. If you believe your fiancé is being unfaithful, perhaps you should speak with him directly." "I've tried," the woman's voice rose, drawing glances from a couple crossing the lobby. She took a breath, visibly forcing herself to calm down. "I've tried everything. He's been distant for months, secretive. His assistant claims he's in late meetings every Friday night, but his calendar is empty. I hired a private investigator who tracked him to this address, this hotel, every Friday for 3 months." Emily's mind raced. 3 months? Every Friday?
The timeline matched Mr. Davidson's, Morrison's visits exactly. But the idea of him sneaking around for an affair didn't align with the man she'd observed. He'd never arrived with anyone, never had visitors sent up, never displayed any of the nervous energy of someone conducting a secret relationship. "Miss Walsh, I understand this is painful, but I'll pay you." Victoria opened her bag again, pulling out a wallet. "I'll pay you $5,000, cash. Just tell me if he's here, or if he was here last night, or give me his room number. Anything, please, I'm begging you." $5,000? Emily's mind immediately calculated what that could mean. 3 months of her mother's medication, or the ability to finally fix her apartment's broken heating before winter, or a real dent in her student debt. $5,000 for information she could provide in 10 seconds. She looked at Victoria's desperate face, at the money being offered, at the photos of a couple that looked happy even if they weren't, and she thought about Mr. Davidson, Morrison, and his quiet thank you, and his tired eyes, and the way he'd always treated her like a person rather than a service. "I can't help you," Emily said quietly. "I'm sorry." Victoria stared at her for a long moment, disbelief giving way to anger. "You're protecting him. God, are you the one he's meeting? Is that why you won't—" "Ma'am, I need you to leave." Emily kept her voice steady, professional. "If you continue to harass me or our guests, I'll have to call security." Victoria's expression hardened. She pulled a business card from her wallet and slapped it on the counter. "When you change your mind, and you will, because your loyalty is worth nothing to people like Alexander Morrison, call me. The offer stands." She turned and walked out, her heels clicking in angry rhythm across the marble. The brass door closed behind her with a definitive thud. Emily stood very still, her heart pounding. She looked down at the business card. Victoria Walsh, Chief Marketing Officer, Morrison Technologies. The same company. They worked together. Emily picked up the card and tucked it into her pocket, though she knew she'd never use it. The rest of her shift passed in a blur of routine tasks that did nothing to settle her mind. She kept replaying the encounter, questioning her decision. $5,000 for information that felt wrong to withhold from someone who seemed genuinely heartbroken. But there was something about Victoria's performance, and it had felt like a performance, despite the tears, that didn't sit right. At 7 p.m., Emily's relief arrived. Marcus, the evening desk manager, took over with his usual cheerful energy, and Emily gathered her things. As she walked toward the employee exit, she paused, looking back at the lobby. The brass door, the marble floors, the secrets contained in rooms she'd never see. She pushed through the employee entrance and stepped into the October evening, unaware that she'd just passed the point of no return.
Sunday was supposed to be Emily's day off, but the call came at 9 a.m., jarring her from sleep. Leonard Hastings, the hotel's general manager, asked if she could come in early. There was a situation that required her presence. His tone carried an unusual tension. Emily arrived at the Meridian by 10:30, still groggy from too little sleep and too many racing thoughts about yesterday's encounter. She entered through the staff entrance, bypassing the lobby, and headed directly to Leonard's office on the second floor. What she found there stopped her cold. Leonard sat behind his mahogany desk, his usually composed face showing strain. And in the chairs across from him sat Alexander Morrison, Mr. Davidson, looking somehow both exhausted and relieved. He wore casual clothes, jeans and a button-down shirt, so different from his usual suits that Emily almost didn't recognize him. "Miss Carter, please sit." Leonard gestured to an empty chair. "Mr. Morrison has requested this meeting to address a situation that occurred yesterday." Emily sat slowly, her mind spinning. Had Victoria filed a complaint? Was she being fired for refusing to break policy? Or worse, was Morrison about to accuse her of something she didn't do? "Emily," Morrison said, and the use of her first name in Leonard's office felt jarringly intimate. "I owe you an enormous apology. Victoria came to the hotel yesterday, didn't she?" Emily glanced at Leonard, unsure how much she should say. He nodded slightly, giving permission. "Yes," Emily said carefully. "A woman identifying herself as Victoria Walsh came to the front desk looking for you. Well, for Alexander Morrison. She claimed to be your fiancé and said you were having an affair. I told her I couldn't confirm or deny any guest information, and she laughed. That's all." Morrison exhaled slowly. "Did she offer you money?" Emily hesitated. "Yes." "How much?" $5,000. Morrison's jaw tightened. "And you refused." "I was doing my job, Mr. Morrison. Protecting guest privacy is fundamental to—" "Please," he interrupted gently, "call me Alex. And what you did was more than your job, Emily. You protected my privacy when someone offered you significant money and a very convincing sob story. Victoria Walsh is a remarkably good actress when she wants something." "I don't understand. The photos she showed me are real," Alex confirmed. "Victoria and I are engaged, publicly. The photos, the announcements, the appearances, all real. What's not real is the relationship itself." Emily felt like the floor had shifted beneath her. "I'm sorry, what?" Leonard cleared his throat. "Mr. Morrison came to me this morning because he's concerned that Ms. Walsh might escalate the situation. He felt you deserved to know the truth, both as an apology for involving you and as preparation for what might come next." Alex leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, hands clasped. 2 years ago, Morrison Technologies was preparing to acquire a smaller company, NetVision, for about $800 million. Victoria Walsh was NetVision's co-founder and CMO. During negotiations, our board was concerned about market perception. 2 tech companies merging can spook investors, especially when one is absorbing the other. He paused, as if gathering strength to continue. Victoria proposed a solution. If she and I became a couple, it would humanize the acquisition, make it look like a romantic merger of equals rather than a corporate takeover. Our PR teams loved it. The business press ate it up. Tech's power couple headlines wrote themselves. You're saying your entire relationship is fake for public relations? It started as a 6-month arrangement, Alex said quietly, just until the acquisition closed and the market stabilized. But Victoria kept finding reasons to extend it. First, it was another quarter for the stock price. Then it was the next funding round. Then she suggested an engagement announcement to coincide with our Q3 earnings report because positive personal news would offset some disappointing numbers. "And you agreed?" Emily couldn't keep the disbelief from her voice. "At first, yes. I know how that sounds, like I'm a coward who couldn't stand up for himself. Maybe that's exactly what I am." Alex's voice carried genuine shame. "But Morrison Technologies isn't just me. It's 800 employees, shareholders, investors. Victoria made it clear that if I ended our relationship publicly, she'd claim I used her for the acquisition and then discarded her. She'd make me the villain. The tech press would destroy me and, by extension, the company." "So you've been living a lie for 2 years," Emily said slowly, trying to process it all. "I've been trapped," Alex corrected. "And it's not just about public perception anymore. 6 months ago, I wanted to end it, quietly, amicably. Victoria refused. That's when I realized this wasn't about PR anymore. It was about control. She uses our relationship to influence company decisions, to position herself for the CEO role I never promised her, to access parts of my life and business she has no right to." He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture of exhaustion. "The hotel became my escape. 4 hours every Friday where I'm not Alexander Morrison, tech billionaire with a picture-perfect relationship, where I can just sit in a quiet room and remember who I used to be before my entire life became a performance." Emily felt something shift in her understanding. "You come here to be alone." "Yes, just silence. No phones, no emails, no Victoria orchestrating our next public appearance.
Just me and a room with the view, remembering what peace feels like. He met her eyes. I know it's pathetic, a grown man paying for a hotel room just to sig in it, but it's the only space in my life that Victoria doesn't control. It's not pathetic, it's sad. The word hung in the air. Leonard shifted uncomfortably, but Alex nodded slowly.
Yes, he agreed. It is sad. And yesterday, when Victoria tracked me here, my one private space, I realized I can't keep doing this. I came to Leonard this morning to inform him that I'll be releasing a statement tomorrow. I'm ending the engagement publicly and telling the truth about what it was. Emily's eyes widened. The business consequences will be significant, Alex finished. Victoria will retaliate. She'll spin it as betrayal, probably try to sue for breach of contract. Yes, we actually have a contract for this fake relationship. The press will have a field day. My board will be furious. But I can't live like this anymore. And after what Victoria did yesterday, tracking me down and trying to bribe a hotel employee, I realized she is escalating. It's only going to get worse. Why are you telling me all this? Emily asked. Because Victoria knows you refused her money and protected my privacy. That makes you either a loyal ally or a potential target, depending on how she decides to play this. I wanted you to know the truth before she comes back with a different story, different accusations, different tactics. Alex's expression was earnest. And I wanted to thank you. You didn't know any of this yesterday. You just saw someone offering you significant money for information that seemed harmless to share. But you chose integrity. In my world, that's increasingly rare. Leonard spoke up. Mr. Morrison has also requested that we provide you with additional security measures if Miss Walsh returns to the hotel, and he's asked that we make clear to all staff that you acted completely within policy and with commendable professionalism. Emily absorbed all of this, her mind reeling. When are you releasing the statement? Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern. He stood, extending his hand. I know this is a lot to process. I'm sorry you got dragged into my mess, Emily. You deserve better than to be collateral damage in someone else's war. She shook his hand, feeling the weight of what he was about to do. I hope you get your peace, Alex. Real peace, not just 4 hours in a hotel room. He smiled, but it was tired. Me too. After Alex left, Leonard asked Emily to stay. Are you all right? He asked, his professional distance softening slightly. I know this is highly unusual. I'm processing, Emily said honestly. Is my job safe? Absolutely. You handled an impossible situation perfectly. Morrison specifically praised your professionalism. But Emily, I need you to understand something. Victoria Walsh is a powerful woman who is about to lose a great deal. If she decides you're an obstacle or a target, things could get complicated. We'll protect you as much as we can, but there are limits to what the Meridian can do against a Billionaire's fake fiancé. Emily finished. Unfortunately, yes. Emily stood, suddenly exhausted, despite the morning hour. I'll be careful. She left Leonard's office and took the service elevator down to the lobby level, her mind churning with everything she had learned. The brass door gleamed in the October light streaming through the windows. Outside that door, somewhere in Manhattan, Victoria Walsh was probably planning her next move. And Emily, who had only wanted to do her job and mind her own business, had somehow become a player in a game she never agreed to join. Emily thought the truth would be the end of the story. She had no idea it was just the beginning, because Alex Morrison had told her what he wanted her to believe. But the real truth, the one that would turn everything upside down, was still waiting in Suite 412. And when Emily discovered it, she'd realized that both Alex and Victoria had been lying to her from the start.
Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time. So if you're enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story.
Monday morning broke cold and gray, the kind of weather that matched Emily's mood as she prepared for her afternoon shift. She'd spent Sunday evening reading everything she could find online about Alexander Morrison and Victoria Walsh. The articles painted exactly the picture Alex had described: a power couple, tech's golden partnership, an engagement that had boosted both their profiles and Morrison Technology's market value. But now, knowing it was all manufactured, the photos looked different. Emily could see what she'd missed before:
the way their smiles never quite reached their eyes, the calculated positioning for cameras, the absolute absence of candid moments. It was all performance, all the way down. At 2:30 p.m., Emily's phone buzzed with a news alert. Tech billionaire Alexander Morrison announces end of engagement, reveals business arrangement behind the relationship. She opened the article, reading Alex's statement quickly. It was measured, careful, taking full responsibility for the deception while making it clear the arrangement had been mutual. He didn't directly blame Victoria, but the implication was clear. This had been her idea, her strategy, her control. By the time Emily arrived at the Meridian at 3 p.m., her phone was flooded with news updates. The tech press had exploded, Twitter was on fire, and Victoria Walsh had released her own statement, painting herself as a victim of Morrison's manipulation and emotional abuse. "Can you believe this?" Marcus, the evening desk manager who was finishing his day's shift, showed Emily his tablet. Victoria's statement was everywhere, complete with photos of her looking devastated. She's claiming Morrison used her for the acquisition and then crafted this business arrangement story to cover his tracks when he wanted out. Says she genuinely loved him and thought their relationship was real. Emily read Victoria's statement with growing unease. It was masterful, positioning her as the heartbroken woman who'd been used by a powerful man, turning Alex's confession of truth into proof of his deception. The narrative was already shifting in real time on social media, with many people taking Victoria's side. "This is going to get ugly," Marcus muttered, heading out for his break. Emily settled into her shift, but the lobby felt different now. Every guest who checked in felt like a potential reporter or investigator. Every glance seemed suspicious. She was processing a corporate booking when Leonard appeared at her elbow. "Emily, a word, please." They stepped into the small office behind the front desk. Leonard's face was grim. "We've had 3 reporters call already trying to get information about Morrison's stays here. Our corporate office has instructed all staff to refer any media inquiries directly to their communications team. Don't answer any questions, don't confirm anything, don't even acknowledge Morrison was ever a guest." "Understood," Emily said. "There's something else." Leonard pulled out his tablet, showing her an email. Victoria Walsh's legal team has sent a formal request for all of Morrison's hotel records, check-in times, room service orders, any visitors, everything. They're claiming it's relevant to potential defamation litigation. Can they do that? Our lawyers are reviewing it. But Emily, if this goes to court, you might be called to testify about what you observed, what Victoria said to you, all of it. I wanted you to be prepared for that possibility. After Leonard left, Emily tried to focus on work, but her mind kept returning to the situation. Alex Morrison's 4-hour Friday visits that left no trace. Victoria's desperate performance at the desk. The way both of them seemed to be telling true stories that somehow didn't add up to the full truth. At 7 p.m., during a quiet moment in the lobby, Emily made a decision that would change everything. She logged into the hotel's reservation system and pulled up the complete history of Suite 412. She knew she shouldn't. Technically, she was only supposed to access records for current reservations or specific authorized requests. But something nagged at her, some detail she couldn't quite place. Morrison had stayed in Suite 412 every Friday for 3 months. But scrolling through the records, Emily noticed something odd. On 5 occasions during those 3 months, Suite 412 had been occupied by other guests on the Thursday night before Morrison's Friday visits. Different names, all paid in cash, all checking out early Friday morning. That wasn't unusual by itself. Rooms got booked continuously. But what caught Emily's attention was the guest name on the first Thursday booking. Victoria Walsh. She'd checked in late Thursday night 3 months ago, the night before Morrison's very first Friday visit, and checked out at 6 a.m. Friday morning. Her heart began to race. She pulled up the other Thursday bookings, different names, but all paid with the same corporate card ending in 4782. She cross-referenced it with Victoria's Friday visits records, same card.
Victoria had been booking Suite 412 the night before Morrison's visits, always leaving before he arrived. Why would she do that unless she... Her blood ran cold as the possibility hit her. She stood abruptly from her desk, looking around the empty lobby. Her shift ended at 11 p.m., and her replacement wouldn't arrive until 10:45. She had time, but what she was considering was completely against policy. Accessing guest rooms without authorization could get her fired immediately. But if she was right about what Victoria had been doing, then everything Alex had told her was either incomplete or an outright lie. At 10:30 p.m., Emily made a decision. She grabbed the master key card from the secure drawer, the one used only for emergencies and maintenance access. Her hands shook slightly as she signed it out on the log, writing Suite 412, inspection requested by management in the reason field. It was a lie, but she'd deal with the consequences later. The elevator ride to the 4th floor felt eternal. The hallway was silent, plush carpet absorbing the sound of her footsteps. Suite 412 sat at the end of the corridor, its door unremarkable except for the weight of secrets Emily suspected it held. She used the master key. The lock clicked open. The suite was pristine, as always. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Manhattan skyline, now glittering with nightlights. The furniture was elegant and untouched. The bed perfectly made. Nothing seemed out of place.
But Emily had learned to look deeper. She started in the bathroom, checking behind the mirror, inside cabinets, anywhere something small could be hidden. Nothing. The bedroom closet revealed only spare hangers and the hotel safe, which was empty. She checked under furniture, behind paintings, inside drawers. It was in the living area that she found it. The suite had a decorative bookshelf along one wall, filled with elegant volumes that guests rarely touched. Emily ran her fingers along the spines, and behind a leather-bound collection of Oscar Wilde plays, she felt something that didn't belong. She pulled the books aside and found a small device, no bigger than a phone charger, wedged behind the row of books and plugged into an outlet that was mostly hidden from view. Emily carefully extracted it, her hands trembling. It was a recording device, professional grade, the kind that could capture audio for weeks on a single battery, with Wi-Fi capability to transmit data remotely. The kind that cost several $1,000s and was used by private investigators. Her stomach dropped. She checked the device's small LED display. It showed a recording date range, started 3 months ago, still active. Victoria hadn't been trying to catch Alex meeting someone in the suite. She'd been recording him while he was alone, documenting his private hours, his moments of escape, collecting evidence of what? What could you prove by recording someone sitting alone in silence? Unless he wasn't alone, unless the silence wasn't silent. Emily's mind raced through implications. If Victoria had been recording Alex, had she been recording other guests too? Was this just about Alex, or was it something bigger? And if Alex knew about the surveillance, why hadn't he mentioned it that morning in Leonard's office? She photographed the device from multiple angles with her phone, documenting its location and settings. Then, making a decision that she knew crossed a professional line, she pocketed it. If this was evidence of illegal surveillance, the hotel needed to know. And if it was evidence of something else entirely, Emily needed time to figure out what. She carefully replaced the books, checked that everything else in the suite looked undisturbed, and left, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her ears. Back at the front desk, Emily returned the master key and deleted her inspection entry from the log, replacing it with a note about checking a reported thermostat issue that turned out to be fine. Another lie. She was accumulating them quickly. Her replacement arrived at 10:45, and Emily finished her shift on autopilot, her mind elsewhere. At 11:15 p.m., she stepped out into the cold Manhattan night, the recording device heavy in her jacket pocket. She thought she understood the situation. She thought Alex was a trapped man seeking freedom, and Victoria was a controller seeking power. But the recording device suggested a third option she hadn't considered, that everyone was lying.
that everyone was surveilling everyone else, and that Emily had just stolen evidence from a hotel room that could implicate her in whatever conspiracy was unfolding. She walked 6 blocks before allowing herself to stop and breathe. Leaning against a closed storefront, Emily pulled out her phone and did what she'd sworn she wouldn't do. She pulled Victoria Walsh's business card from her wallet and typed the number into her phone. But she didn't call. Not yet. Because before she decided whose side she was on, if there were even sides to be on, she needed to know what was on those recordings. And that meant she needed help from someone with technical expertise, who wouldn't ask too many questions. Emily thought of her ex-boyfriend, Derek, who worked in cybersecurity. They'd ended on decent terms. He owed her a favor from when she'd helped to move last spring. He'd know how to access the device's data. She sent him a text. "I need your help with something technical. Can't explain over text. Coffee tomorrow morning before my shift? It's important." His reply came within 2 minutes, intrigued and concerned. 9 a.m., our old place? Emily confirmed and started walking toward the subway, the recording device in her pocket feeling heavier with every step. She'd crossed a line tonight, broken rules she'd spent 3 years carefully following, and she still didn't know if she'd done it for the right reasons. Above her, the Manhattan skyline glittered indifferently, full of lit windows hiding a million private dramas. Emily had always been content to let those dramas remain private, to be the invisible witness who asked no questions and told no tales. But somewhere between Victoria's desperate performance and Alex's careful confession and the recording device hidden behind Oscar Wilde, Emily had stopped being invisible. Now she was a participant, a co-conspirator, a keeper of secrets that might destroy everyone they touched. And the worst part? She still didn't know what the secrets actually were.
Tuesday morning arrived with rain, the kind of persistent drizzle that turned Manhattan gray and made everyone walk a little faster. Emily met Derek at their old cafe in the West Village, a place they'd spent countless weekend mornings before their relationship had quietly faded into friendship. He looked the same, slightly rumpled, intelligent eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses, perpetually skeptical expression. Derek had always been the most paranoid person Emily knew, which made him exceptional at cybersecurity and exhausting as a boyfriend. Today, she needed his paranoia. "You look terrible," he said by way of greeting, sliding a latte across the table to her. "What did you get yourself into?" Emily pulled the recording device from her bag, setting it on the table between them. Derek's eyes widened. "Emily, please tell me you didn't steal this from someone." "I found it hidden in a hotel suite where I work. It was recording without the guest's knowledge." That was technically true, even if it omitted crucial details. "I need to know what's on it before I decide what to do with it." Derek picked up the device, examining it with professional interest. "This is serious equipment, professional grade, Wi-Fi enabled, which means it's been transmitting data to a remote server. Whoever planted this wasn't playing around." He looked up at her. "You could be holding evidence of a crime, or you could be committing one by taking it. Possibly both. Can you access what it's recording?" "Probably, but Emily, if this is part of an ongoing investigation, law enforcement, corporate espionage, divorce proceedings, you could be obstructing justice. You could be putting yourself in legal jeopardy." "I know. I need to do it anyway." Derek studied her for a long moment, then sighed. "Fine, but we're doing this at my place where we have more privacy, and you're going to tell me the full story while I work." An hour later, they sat in Derek's apartment in Brooklyn, his multiple monitors displaying code and data streams that meant nothing to Emily. She told him everything. Morrison, Victoria, the fake engagement, the surveillance device in Suite 412. Derek listened while his fingers flew across keyboards, occasionally muttering to himself. "Okay, I'm in. The device has been recording continuously for 92 days. It's captured approximately 368 hours of audio, stored both locally and uploaded to a cloud server registered to a private investigation firm in New Jersey. Victoria hired a PI firm. That makes sense. Hold on." Derek's frown deepened as he scrolled through data. "The payment trail for the cloud storage doesn't lead back to Victoria Walsh. It goes to a corporate account registered to Morrison Technologies."
Emily's blood went cold. What? The surveillance device was paid for by Morrison's own company. Derek turned one of his monitors toward her, showing financial records. Look, purchase order from 6 months ago, signed off by Alexander Morrison himself. The room seemed to tilt. Emily gripped the edge of Derek's desk. That's impossible. Alex told me Victoria was the one surveilling him. He said this was her way of controlling him. Then Alex lied to you. Derek pulled up more files. The PI firm was hired by Morrison Technologies' legal department with explicit authorization from Morrison. The work order specifically mentioned Suite 412 at the Meridian. They were hired to document activities and conversations for legal protection in anticipated litigation. He was recording himself? Why would he? Building evidence. If you know you're being recorded, you can control the narrative. You can make sure the recordings show exactly what you want them to show. Let me jump to some recent recordings. Maybe they'll clarify. What came through the speakers made Emily's entire understanding of the situation shatter. Alex Morrison's voice, clear and calm. Emily Carter needs to believe she's the one discovering the pattern. Emily Carter is the perfect witness. 3 years of impeccable service, no history of selling information, strong ethical record. When this goes to court, her testimony will be invaluable. Another voice, female but not Victoria's. And if she doesn't cooperate? Alex again. She will. I've been building rapport for 3 months. She sees me as the victim. When Victoria plays her part and comes to the hotel acting desperate and threatening, Emily's protective instincts will kick in. She'll believe she's defending an innocent man against a manipulative woman. The female voice. You're certain Victoria will follow the script? Alex. Victoria doesn't know it's a script. She genuinely believes I've been having an affair. That's what makes her performance authentic. I've left just enough breadcrumbs, secretive behavior, Friday absences, this hotel, to make her paranoid. She'll investigate, she'll confront, and she'll implicate herself in harassment and attempted bribery. Emily felt nauseous. Derek paused the playback, his face troubled. Emily, I think you've been played. But the recording continued, and what came next was even worse. Alex Morrison's voice. The fraud charges will be the final blow. Once we prove Victoria has been systematically inflating marketing metrics and misrepresenting campaign results to the board, we'll have grounds to terminate her with cause, void her stock options, and potentially pursue criminal charges. The female voice. The documentation is solid. We've had forensic accountants reviewing her department for 6 months. She's been cooking the numbers since the acquisition. Good. When I end the engagement publicly and she retaliates with her victim narrative, we release the fraud evidence. Suddenly, she's not a heartbroken fiancé. She's a criminal trying to deflect from her own misconduct. Her credibility will be destroyed. What about the public relations damage to you? Alex laughed, a cold sound. A week of bad press about a fake engagement? That's nothing compared to the damage Victoria could do if she remained in the company. She knows too much about our real financials, our upcoming products, our acquisition strategy. She's become a liability. This is the cleanest way to eliminate her. Derek stopped the playback. The apartment was silent, except for the rain against the windows. Emily couldn't speak. Everything she'd believed about Alex being trapped, about Victoria being controlling, about her own role as a protector of privacy had been a carefully constructed lie. He used me, she finally whispered. Every Friday for 3 months, the polite conversation, remembering my name, making me see him as human. It was all manipulation. Derek pulled up more files. There's worse. Look at this timeline. 6 months ago, Morrison Technologies hired the PI firm and planted the surveillance device. 5 months ago, Alex started displaying suspicious behavior around Victoria to make her paranoid. 4 months ago, Victoria hired her own investigators, different firm, to follow Alex. 3 months ago, Alex started coming to the Meridian every Friday, creating a pattern obvious enough for Victoria's investigators to find. He was setting a trap, Emily said numbly. Every piece was planned. And you were the linchpin, the credible witness who would testify that Victoria tried to bribe you, harassed you, violated his privacy. Your testimony makes Victoria look dangerous and unhinged. It justifies everything Alex is about to do to her. Emily stood up abruptly, pacing Derek's small apartment. But Victoria did try to bribe me. She did show up demanding information. That part was real. Was it? Derek pulled up another audio file. Listen to this. It's from 2 weeks ago.
A conversation between Alex and the unknown woman. Victoria's investigator confirmed the hotel pattern. She'll confront Emily Carter within the next 10 days. Perfect. Make sure our media team is ready. The moment Victoria makes her move, we document everything. If she offers money, even better. That's attempted bribery of a hotel employee. You're enjoying this. I'm protecting my company from a con artist who's been defrauding us for 2 years. If I have to manipulate her into revealing her true character publicly, so be it. Derek paused the recording again. Emily, Alex knew Victoria would come to your hotel. He probably timed his Friday visit that day specifically to trigger her. He knew she was paranoid, knew she was having him followed, knew she'd eventually crack and do something impulsive. He set up the dominoes and waited for her to knock them over. Emily felt sick. What about the fraud charges he mentioned? Are those real? I'd need to dig deeper to verify, but... Derek pulled up his browser, searching for Morrison Technologies' financial filings. Here's the thing. If Victoria has been inflating marketing metrics, that's serious. But it's also the kind of thing that happens in corporate environments all the time. Optimistic projections, generous interpretations of success metrics. It's technically wrong, but it's rarely prosecuted unless someone wants to make an example. Unless someone needs a weapon. Exactly. My guess is Victoria probably did fudge some numbers. Most marketing executives do. But Alex has been building a case specifically to weaponize her normal corporate corner cutting. He's turning standard business exaggeration into fraud. Emily sat back down, her legs unsteady. So Victoria isn't innocent, but Alex is worse. That's the thing about watching two people destroy each other. Usually they both deserve it at least a little bit. The question is, what are you going to do now? Emily stared at the monitors, at the audio files containing hundreds of hours of recorded conversations, at the evidence of a conspiracy that had used her as an unwitting weapon. I don't know. You have options. You could go to Victoria, tell her what you found, warn her about the fraud charges. You could go to the press with all of this, expose Alex's manipulation. You could go to a lawyer, protect yourself from whatever legal fallout is coming. Or you could do nothing, pretend you never found the device, and hope this whole thing blows past you. All of those options feel wrong, Emily said. That's because all of those options have consequences you can't control. Derek closed his laptop. Emily, you're a good person who got caught in a bad situation between two people playing power games. Whatever you decide, some people are going to get hurt. The question is, who do you want to be in this story? Emily thought about that question for a long time. Who did she want to be? She thought about Alex Morrison, who'd spent 3 months pretending to be vulnerable, building false intimacy with her for the sole purpose of creating a reliable witness for his corporate warfare. She thought about Victoria Walsh, who might be a fraud, but who was definitely walking into a trap she didn't see coming. She thought about herself, Emily Carter, who dropped out of grad school to pay medical bills and worked 3 years at a hotel trying to be invisible, to not cause problems, to just get through each day. I want to be someone who tells the truth, Emily finally said, even when the truth is complicated and messy and doesn't make anyone look good, even when it hurts me. Derek nodded slowly. Then you need to talk to both of them, separately. Tell them you know everything. Give them a chance to explain themselves without the public performance, and then you decide what to do with what you know based on who they actually are, not who they've been pretending to be. Victoria will think I'm helping Alex. Alex will think I'm betraying him. Probably, Derek agreed, but at least you'll be making your own choice instead of being someone's chess piece. Emily pulled out her phone, looking at Victoria Walsh's business card information still in her contacts. Then she opened her email and found the message Alex Morrison had sent Sunday through Leonard with his direct contact information in case you need anything. 2 people, 2 conversations, and then a decision that would define whether Emily remained invisible or became something else entirely, something more dangerous, but also more real. Can you make me a copy of the relevant audio files? Emily asked Derek. I want receipts. Already done. He handed her a USB drive. Everything's encrypted. Password is your mother's birthday plus the year you graduated high school. Don't lose this, and for God's sakes, don't plug it into any computer connected to Morrison Technologies network." Emily pocketed the drive along with the recording device. "Thank you, Derek. Don't thank me yet. You might regret doing this." But he hugged her anyway, and Emily held on for a moment longer than necessary, borrowing strength for what came next. She left Derek's apartment at noon, stepping into the October rain with 2 phone calls to make and no clear sense of what would happen after she made them. But for the first time in 3 months, maybe for the first time in 3 years, Emily Carter wasn't being invisible. She was choosing to act, to speak, to matter, even if it destroyed her in the process. Emily thought confronting Alex and Victoria with the truth would force them to stop their game. She had no idea that the real game hadn't even started yet, and that the person pulling all the strings wasn't in the recording at all. By tomorrow morning, Emily would discover that everyone, including her, had been pawns in someone else's endgame, and the only way out was to become a player herself.
Emily called Victoria first. It was strategic. Victoria was the one playing defense, the one who stood to lose the most in the immediate term. She'd be more likely to meet quickly, to listen desperately. The phone rang 3 times before Victoria answered, her voice crisp despite the chaos her life must currently be. "This is Victoria Walsh?" "Miss Walsh? This is Emily Carter, from the Meridian Hotel." A pause, then more cautiously, "Emily, I didn't expect to hear from you. I have information about Alexander Morrison that I think you need to hear. Information that changes the situation significantly. Can we meet today?" "Are you looking for that $5,000 after all?" Victoria's voice carried an edge of bitterness. "Because I'm not sure I can afford to pay for betrayal anymore." "I don't want your money. I want to tell you the truth before it's too late. But it has to be in person. And it has to be today." Emily kept her voice steady. "I found the recording device in Suite 412. I've heard the audio. I know what you've been doing." The other pause, longer this time. Emily could hear the calculation happening on the other end of the line. "Where?" "Somewhere public. Somewhere you'd feel safe. Bryant Park, by the fountain, 2 p.m. I'll be there." The call ended. Emily sat in Derek's spare room. He had insisted she stay there rather than go home, worried about her safety, and prepared for the second call. This one would be harder. She dialed Alex Morrison's personal number. He answered on the first ring, his voice warm and familiar. "Emily, I was hoping you'd call. I wanted to check on you after everything. I found the recording device in Suite 412. I've heard the audio. I know what you've been doing." The warmth vanished instantly, replaced with something colder and more calculating. "I see. I suppose you want an explanation." "No, I want a meeting. Today, 4 p.m., Bryant Park, by the reading room. Come alone. If you bring security or lawyers, I walk away, and everything I know goes to the press." "Emily, let me explain." 4 p.m., Mr. Morrison, or this conversation is over." She ended the call before he could respond, her hands shaking. Derek appeared in the doorway with coffee. "You sound like someone who knows what they're doing." "I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm doing it anyway." At 1:45 p.m., Emily stood at the edge of Bryant Park, watching New Yorkers hurry past in the October drizzle. The park was moderately crowded despite the weather, tourists taking photos, office workers on lunch breaks, students studying on benches under umbrellas. Public enough to be safe, anonymous enough to speak freely. Victoria arrived at exactly 2 p.m., dressed more casually than before, designer jeans, a long camel coat, sunglasses, despite the cloudy weather. She spotted Emily immediately and approached her, posture defensive. "You said you found something?" Emily pulled the recording device from her bag. Victoria's eyes widened behind her sunglasses. "Where did you—" "Suite 412, hidden behind books on the shelf. It's been recording continuously for 3 months since the first day Alex started visiting the hotel. It was paid for and placed by Morrison Technologies, by Alex himself. He's been recording himself, Victoria, creating evidence, building a narrative." Victoria reached for the device, but Emily pulled it back. "Not yet. First, you need to hear what's on it." Over the next 20 minutes, standing in the rain in Bryant Park, Emily played selected audio clips on her phone. She watched Victoria's face transform from defensive anger to confusion to dawning horror as Alex's conspiracy unfolded in his own words. When the final clip finished, the one about weaponizing fraud charges, Victoria removed her sunglasses. Her eyes were red, but no tears fell. He planned all of this from the beginning. Yes, Emily confirmed. He made you paranoid on purpose. He created the hotel pattern specifically so you'd investigate. He knew you'd eventually come to me. He was counting on it. And the fraud charges? Victoria's voice was hollow. Are they real? I don't know, but based on the recordings, Alex has been building a case for 6 months. His forensic accountants have been reviewing your department. Whatever they found, he plans to use it to destroy you publicly right after you try to defend yourself against his fake engagement revelations. Victoria laughed, a broken sound. It's brilliant, really. Absolutely brilliant. I taught him too well. Emily frowned. What do you mean? The engagement. That wasn't my idea, Emily. It was Alex. 2 years ago, NetVision was failing. Not just struggling, actively dying. We had maybe 6 months of runway left. The Morrison Technologies acquisition was our only chance, but Alex's board was hesitant about the price. They thought we were overvalued. Alex came to me privately. He said if we created a romance narrative, it would soften the acquisition coverage, make it seem like a merger of equals rather than a desperate sale. He said it would help to justify the price to his board and make the whole thing feel less like corporate cannibalism. But the recordings, Emily said, Alex told you proposed the arrangement. He lied. Or more likely, he's been revising history so thoroughly that he believes his own fiction. That's Alex's gift. He's a brilliant storyteller. He can spin any narrative and make it feel inevitable. Emily sat beside her on the bench. So the engagement was his idea, but you did go along with it. I did, Emily admitted. Because NetVision was my company. My co-founder and I had spent 7 years building it. The idea of it dying was unbearable. So, yes, I agreed to date Alex Morrison for PR purposes. I smiled for cameras and attended galas and played the role of Tech's sweetheart. And it worked. The acquisition went through at the price we needed.
But then it didn't end. No. Victoria's hands clenched in her lap. After 6 months, I wanted out. The pretense was exhausting. But Alex said the market wasn't stable yet, that we needed to maintain the narrative a bit longer. Then it was another quarter, then another. And when I finally insisted on ending it a year ago, that's when things got ugly. She turned to face Emily directly. Alex told me I was a co-founder of a failed company, that without Morrison Technologies' acquisition, I'd have nothing, that my equity in his company was contingent on maintaining certain behavioral standards, including not embarrassing the company publicly. He made it clear that ending our relationship would be seen as me being difficult, unstable, a poor cultural fit. He'd find reasons to push me out and I'd lose everything, my position, my stock options, my reputation. He's been holding your career hostage, Emily said slowly, for a year, and I've been trying to find leverage to escape. That's why I hired investigators, not to catch him cheating, but to find evidence of anything I could use to protect myself, affairs, financial impropriety, anything that would give me negotiating power. Victoria's laugh was bitter. I didn't realize Alex was 3 steps ahead, setting up my investigation as evidence of my instability. Emily absorbed this, her understanding shifting again. You did try to bribe me, though. That part was real. I was desperate. You have to understand, I could feel Alex tightening the noose. I knew he was planning something, I just didn't know what. When my investigator confirmed the hotel pattern, I thought maybe I'd finally found leverage, a secret relationship, hidden meeting, something. Victoria shook her head. I never imagined he was creating a trap and I was the prey. The fraud charges? Emily asked.
Did you inflate marketing metrics? Victoria was quiet for a long moment. I optimized our reporting. In marketing, there's always gray area in how you measure success. Did I present our campaigns in the most favorable light? Yes. Did I occasionally count outcomes that were indirectly related to our work? Yes. Is that different from what every marketing department does? No. But it could be prosecuted as fraud if someone wanted to make a case. With the right lawyers and the right motivation, almost anything can be prosecuted. Victoria's voice was defeated. Alex has the resources and the motive. Now that I've publicly positioned myself as his victim, anything he releases about my department will look like proof that I was the real villain all along. Emily pulled out her phone, showing Victoria the USB drive Derek had prepared. I have copies of all the recordings, audio proof that Alex planned this entire scheme, that he manipulated both of us. It's evidence. Evidence of what? Victoria asked. That Alex is smart? That he outmaneuvered me? None of what he did was illegal, Emily. Unethical, absolutely. But he didn't break any laws. He just played the game better than I did. You used me without my consent. You recorded conversations. In a hotel suite he was renting, where he had a reasonable expectation that he could document his own private time. His lawyers will argue it's self-protection, especially given that I was having him followed. Victoria stood, her coat dripping rainwater. Thank you for showing me this. At least now I know what I'm facing. I can prepare for the fraud accusations instead of being blindsided. What will you do? Victoria looked out at the park, at the people going about their lives, unaware of the corporate warfare happening on a bench in the rain. I'll hire the best lawyers I can afford. I'll try to negotiate a quiet exit with my stock options intact, and I'll accept that I lost this game. She turned back to Emily. What will you do? I'm meeting Alex at 4. I'm going to confront him with the same information. Be careful, Victoria warned. Alex is most dangerous when he's cornered. He'll try to turn the situation around, make you feel like you're the one in the wrong. He's extraordinarily good at it. After Victoria left, Emily sat alone on the bench for a long time, watching the rain create ripples and puddles. She thought about Derek's question. Who did she want to be in this story? She still didn't have a clear answer. At 3:50 p.m., Emily moved to the designated meeting spot near Bryant Park's reading room. Alex arrived at 4:02, punctual enough to show respect, late enough to maintain power. He wore a dark raincoat and carried an umbrella, looking every inch the billionaire tech executive despite the casual park setting. Emily, he didn't sit, standing instead, another power move, forcing her to either stand to or look up at him. I assume you've had time to think about what you heard. Sit down, Alex. Emily's voice was colder than she'd ever used with him. Or I walk away and call the New York Times. He sat, a slight smile playing at his lips. There she is, the real Emily Carter. I wondered when I'd meet her. You've been lying to me for 3 months. I've been protecting myself, Alex corrected. There's a difference. You used me as a prop in your corporate warfare. You manipulated my empathy and turned me into a witness for your carefully constructed narrative. You gave me the opportunity to be part of something important, to stand up against someone who's been freedawing my company for 2 years. Victoria Walsh is a con artist, Emily. Everything I told you about her controlling behavior was true. The fake engagement, the manipulation, the threats, all true. But true, but not the whole truth. You started the fake engagement. You extended it. You held her career hostage when she wanted out. Alex's expression didn't change. I see you've spoken with Victoria. Did she play you the victim card? Tell you how trapped she felt? It's a good performance. She's had practice. I heard the recordings, Alex. Your voice, planning how to manipulate me, how to weaponize Victoria's desperation, how to destroy her career by timing the release of fraud charges to maximize public humiliation. You mean the recordings where I discuss protecting my company from an employee who's been systematically lying about performance metrics and costing us millions in misallocated resources? Alex leaned forward slightly. Emily, Victoria Walsh has been committing fraud. Real fraud, with real consequences. People have lost their jobs because of her inflated metrics. Investors have made decisions based on false information. I'm not destroying her career. I'm holding her accountable. By setting an elaborate trap that uses me as bait? By documenting the pattern of her behavior in a way that would hold up in court. Yes, I anticipated she would investigate. Yes, I knew she might approach you. That's not manipulation. That's understanding human nature. His voice took on a persuasive warmth. Emily, you refused her bribe. You protected my privacy. Those were your choices, driven by your own ethics. I didn't make you do anything you didn't want to do. You befriended me specifically to create those circumstances. I treated you with respect because you deserved respect. The fact that it also served my purposes doesn't make it less genuine. His eyes held hers. You're upset because you found out you were part of a larger picture. But Emily, we're all part of larger pictures. The question is whether the outcome is just. Is it just to hold Victoria accountable for fraud? I believe it is.
Emily felt her certainty wavering, felt Alex's words working on her exactly the way his recordings had predicted. He was good. Extraordinarily good. Victoria says the fraud charges are standard marketing optimization, that you're weaponizing normal business practices. Victoria would say that. What else can she say? Alex pulled out his own phone, opening a document. These are the real numbers from her campaigns compared to what she reported to the board. Not interpretation, actual documented fraud. Fabricated engagement metrics, fake user testimonials, purchased bot traffic presented as organic growth. This isn't spinning numbers favorably, this is lying. Emily looked at the documentation. It was damning. Columns of numbers showing systematic inflation, fake accounts, manufactured results. Either Alex was showing her real evidence, or he created false evidence so convincing that even she couldn't tell the difference. I don't know what to believe anymore, Emily said quietly. Then believe the facts. Believe documentation. Believe your own judgment. Alex's voice softened. Emily, I know you feel used, and I'm sorry for that. But I'm asking you to consider the possibility that you weren't manipulated. You were trusted. I trusted you to be the person you are, someone with integrity who would make the right choice when confronted with wrong behavior, and you did. By stealing evidence from a hotel room? Alex's smile was slight. By refusing to let Victoria bully you into betraying a guest's privacy. Everything after that is just you trying to understand a complicated situation. Nobody's going to prosecute you for that. What happens now? Emily asked. Now I ask you a question. Alex looked at her seriously. Do you want to be someone who helps hold people accountable, or someone who lets fraud continue because you're uncomfortable with the tactics used to expose it? Because that's the actual choice here. Not whether you like me or trust me, but whether you believe Victoria should face consequences for actions that hurt real people. Emily stood, needing physical distance from Alex's persuasive gravity. I need time to think. Of course, Alex remained seated, comfortable in the power position. But Emily, time is something we don't have much of. The fraud evidence goes public tomorrow morning, with or without your cooperation. Your testimony about Victoria's attempted bribery would strengthen the case, but it's not essential. So the real question is whether you want to be part of the resolution or just a bystander to it. I'll let you know, Emily said and walked away before Alex could respond, before his words could work deeper into her uncertainty. She made it 3 blocks before she had to stop, leaning against a building, her mind spinning. Emily was right that the evidence looked damning, but Victoria was right that Alex orchestrated everything. They were both manipulators, both liars, both using her. But one of them was definitely also a fraud. Her phone rang. Unknown number. Emily almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Miss Carter? A woman's voice, professional and unfamiliar. My name is Jennifer Chen. I'm the general counsel for Morrison Technologies.
Mr. Morrison mentioned you might have questions about the evidence he showed you regarding Victoria Walsh's conduct. I'd be happy to walk you through the legal case if that would help clarify your decision." Emily closed her eyes. Of course, Alex was already moving to secure her cooperation, already providing resources to eliminate her doubts. It was just more manipulation, more careful planning. Unless it was just good lawyering. Unless Alex really did have a legitimate case and Emily's cynicism was preventing her from seeing justice happen. "I'll think about it," Emily told the lawyer and ended the call. Then she did something she should have done at the beginning. She called the one person who'd been honest with her from the start. "Derek," she said when he answered, "I need you to verify something. Real forensic analysis, not just taking anyone's word for it. Can you look at marketing campaign data and tell me if it's been fraudulently inflated?" "Probably, if I can access the raw data." "Why?" "Because I need to know who's actually lying before I decide whose side I'm on." "Emily, there might not be sides. There might just be two people who both suck in different ways." "I know, but I need to figure out which one is more before I make a decision I can't take back." "Send me what you have." "And Emily, whatever you decide, make sure it's your decision. Not Alex's, not Victoria's, yours." After Emily hung up, she stood in the October dusk, rain still falling, the city moving around her with indifferent momentum. Tomorrow, regardless of what she did, Alex would release his evidence, Victoria would face consequences, and Emily would have to live with whatever choice she made. She just wished she knew what the right choice was.
The truth came 3 hours later at 9 p.m. when Derek called back. "Emily, you need to sit down for this." She was already sitting in his spare room, laptop open, trying and failing to work on a cover letter for a job she didn't want. "Just tell me. I analyzed the data Alex showed you against public records, Morrison Technologies' SEC filings, and some campaign analytics I could access through industry databases. Victoria's reported numbers are inflated, yes, but they're inflated by industry standard amounts. Every marketing department does this. She's no more fraudulent than any other CMO in tech." Emily felt something settle in her chest. So Alex is manufacturing the fraud case. "Not exactly. The inflation is real, but," Derek continued, "here's the thing. I dug deeper into Morrison Technologies' finances. The company is in trouble, Emily, real trouble. They're burning through cash, their last product launch failed, and they're facing a major competitor lawsuit that could cost them hundreds of millions of dollars. They need to cut costs dramatically. And Victoria's stock options are worth about $40 million that Morrison Technologies doesn't want to pay out. So this whole thing is about money." "It's always about money," Derek said. "Alex needs Victoria gone, needs her stock options voided, needs a scapegoat for the company's struggles. The fake engagement story makes him sympathetic, the fraud charges justify terminating her with cause, and your testimony about her attempted bribery and harassment makes her look unhinged enough that investors won't question the narrative." "What about Victoria's role in this? She's not innocent." "No, she participated in a fake relationship for business reasons and probably did optimize her reporting more than she should have. But Emily, she's not the mastermind. She's the target. Alex has been planning her removal since before he even started coming to your hotel." "How do you know?" "I found something in the Morrison Technologies board meeting minutes from 6 months ago, their public record for the quarterly meetings. There was a discussion about reducing executive compensation liabilities and addressing C-suite redundancies. Victoria is mentioned by name. Alex has been working on this exit strategy for half a year. The fake engagement ending, the fraud charges, your hotel routine, it's all theater building toward a predetermined conclusion." Emily felt exhausted, suddenly, bone-deep tired of the manipulation and lies. "So what should I do?" "That depends. What kind of person do you want to be?" There was that question again. Emily closed her eyes, thinking. She thought about her 3 years at the Meridian, being invisible. She thought about dropping out of grad school, her deferred dreams of helping people. She thought about watching powerful people play games with other people's lives and staying silent because it was safer, easier, more professional. I want to be someone who tells the truth, even when it's complicated, even when nobody looks good. Then you know what you have to do. Emily did know, she just wasn't sure she had the courage to do it. The next morning, Wednesday, Emily woke at 6 a.m. with a plan. At 8 a.m., she sent identical emails to 3 addresses: Alexander Morrison's personal email, Victoria Walsh's work email, and the news desk at the Wall Street Journal. The email contained the full story, the fake engagement that Alex initiated, the corporate motivations behind its extension, Victoria's complicity and subsequent desperation, Alex's elaborate plan to eliminate her from the company, the surveillance device, and the manufactured fraud case, and Emily's own testimony about both Victoria's attempted bribery and Alex's manipulation. Nobody looked good in Emily's account. Not Alex, not Victoria, not even Emily, who admitted to stealing evidence from a hotel room. It was messy and complicated and human. The truth usually is. The Wall Street Journal published the story at 2 p.m. that afternoon. By 3 p.m., it had been picked up by every major news outlet. By 5 p.m., Morrison Technologies stock had dropped 12%. By 6 p.m., both Alex and Victoria had released statements through their lawyers. By 8 p.m., Emily had been fired from the Meridian Hotel for theft and breach of guest privacy. She'd expected that, had prepared for it. What she hadn't expected was the call that came at 9 p.m. from an unfamiliar number. Miss Carter, this is Rachel Torres, staff attorney with the New York State Attorney General's office. We'd like to speak with you about providing testimony in an investigation we're opening into Morrison Technologies' business practices. Your revelations have raised some serious questions about corporate governance and potential securities fraud. Emily sat in Derek's apartment, she'd be staying there indefinitely now that her job was gone, and listened as the lawyer explained. The AG's office had been receiving complaints about Morrison Technologies for months. Emily's story had provided the opening they needed to start a formal investigation. Both Mr. Morrison and Miss Walsh may face legal consequences, the lawyer explained, but we need cooperative witnesses, people willing to tell the truth even when it's complicated. I've already lost my job, Emily said. What can I lose? Potentially nothing, potentially everything, depending on how vindictive Morrison wants to be. But, Miss Carter, this is important. People like Morrison and Walsh, they count on everyone being too scared or too complicit to speak up. You weren't. After the call ended, Emily sat in the dark, processing. She had destroyed 2 powerful people's carefully constructed narratives. She'd lost her job and possibly her career in hospitality. She had become a public figure in a scandal she never wanted any part of. But she had told the truth. The complicated, messy, unflattering truth. Derek emerged from his room with 2 beers. You did it. I ruined my life, Emily corrected, accepting the beer. You took your life back, Derek said, sitting beside her. There's a difference. Over the next 2 weeks, Emily watched the story unfold with a strange sense of detachment. Morrison Technologies placed Alex on administrative leave pending the investigation. Victoria Walsh resigned and negotiated a settlement that voided some, but not all of her stock options. The media cycle churned through the scandal, with think pieces about corporate ethics, fake relationships, and the culture of Silicon Valley deception. Emily gave her testimony to the Attorney General's office. She was interviewed by federal investigators. She sat for a deposition that lasted 7 hours, and through it all she told the same complicated, messy truth, that everyone involved had made choices, some worse than others, and that the powerful had tried to use her silence as a weapon. The hotel industry blacklisted her, as she'd expected. No luxury establishment would hire someone who'd violated guest privacy, regardless of her reasons. Her professional reputation was destroyed. But something unexpected happened. The story of a receptionist who had refused to be a pawn, who had sacrificed her career to expose corporate manipulation, resonated with people. Emily started receiving messages, hundreds of them, then thousands of them, from workers who'd been used by their employers, manipulated by the powerful, forced to choose between their integrity and their survival.
A labor rights organization offered her a job as a community organizer.
A legal nonprofit asked her to join their board. Columbia University's social work program reached out about readmitting her with a full scholarship. A literary agent wanted to represent her for a book deal. Emily sat at Derek's kitchen table 2 months after everything fell apart, looking at opportunities she never imagined having. The girl who dropped out of grad school to be invisible was being offered platforms to be seen. "It's ironic," she told Derek. "I lost everything, and somehow I have more choices now than I did when I was trying to play it safe." "That's not irony," Derek said. "That's what happens when you stop living someone else's story and start writing your own." Emily accepted the position with the labor rights organization. It paid less than her hotel job had, but it meant something. She returned to Columbia part-time, finally finishing the degree she'd abandoned, and she started speaking publicly about her experience, not as a hero, but as someone who'd made hard choices and was still figuring out what they meant. 6 months after the scandal, Emily ran into Victoria Walsh at a coffee shop in the West Village. Victoria looked different, less polished, more tired, but somehow more real. They stood in awkward silence for a moment before Victoria spoke. "I never thanked you," Victoria said quietly, "for telling the whole truth, not just Alex's version or my version." "You lost your career," Emily pointed out. "I lost a career built on lies. Maybe that needed to happen." Victoria ordered her coffee, then turned back to Emily. "I'm teaching now, marketing ethics at NYU. Turns out there's value in being the cautionary tale. And I'm consulting for startups, helping them avoid the mistakes I made." "Are you happy?" Emily asked. Victoria considered the question seriously. "I'm honest. That's different from happy, but it's better than what I was before." They parted ways cordially, two people who'd survived the same disaster from different angles. Emily walked back to her small apartment. She'd moved out of Derek's place after 2 months and thought about happiness versus honesty. She wasn't happy exactly. Her life was harder now, more uncertain, but it was hers. Her choices, her consequences, her story. That night, Emily wrote in the journal her therapist had recommended. She'd started seeing someone after the scandal, working through the trauma of being manipulated and the guilt of the harm her revelations had caused. The therapist had asked her to write about what she'd learned. Emily wrote, "I learned that there are no clean heroes in messy situations, that sometimes everyone is wrong in different ways, that powerful people will always try to use those with less power, and staying silent only guarantees they'll succeed. I learned that integrity costs something, sometimes everything, but that doesn't make it less valuable. Maybe it makes it more valuable, because it proves you're willing to pay the price." She paused, thinking about Alex Morrison, now facing federal charges, about Victoria Walsh rebuilding her reputation one ethics class at a time, about herself starting over at 28 with nothing but her story and her choices. "I learned that you can't be invisible forever. Eventually, you have to decide whether you'll be seen as you are or as someone else wants you to be. The first choice is terrifying. The second choice is suffocating. I chose terror over suffocation. I'm not sure if that was brave or just desperate. Maybe it was both." She closed the journal and looked out her apartment window at the Manhattan skyline. Somewhere in those lit windows, people were making choices. Some were choosing honesty, some were choosing deception. Most were probably choosing something in between, trying to survive in a world that rarely rewarded integrity. Emily had learned that survival wasn't enough, that invisibility wasn't safety, that the cost of speaking truth was high, but the cost of silence was higher. It came from your soul instead of your career, and that debt never got paid off. 3 years ago, Emily Carter had been a grad school dropout working a hotel desk, trying to be invisible, trying to not cause problems. Now she was someone who'd caused enormous problems and discovered that she could survive them. More than survive, she could build something meaningful from the wreckage. The Billionaire's secret dating life had never been about romance. It was about power and control, and the games people played when they had resources to spare and ethics to discard. Emily had stumbled into that game as a piece meant to be played.
She'd chosen instead to flip the board. It hadn't made her happy. It hadn't made her rich. It hadn't solved all her problems or validated all her choices, but it had made her real. And in a world full of carefully constructed facades and strategic relationships and people pretending to be what others wanted them to be, real was its own kind of revolution. Emily turned off her light and went to bed, knowing that tomorrow she'd wake up to a life she'd chosen rather than one she'd settled for. It was scarier. It was harder. It demanded more of her every single day. But it was hers. And that, finally, was enough.
Up next, 2 more incredible stories are waiting for you right on your screen. If you enjoyed this one, you won't want to miss these. Just click to watch and don't forget to subscribe.